welcome to VYPE Recruit Spotlight, episode 37, where we take a look at some of the Texas high school football recruiting news across the state of Texas. Before we get into all the news, of which there is plenty this week, let's bring in my co-hosts. Of course, I am Wack, but joining alongside with me are Jackson and Ashton. Jackson, how you doing, man?
Doing good. It's been a busy week. We've got media days, and then we've got volleyball playoffs going on, regional semis coming up, and then football. First week of Texas high school football playoffs. It's Christmas around here. You know, everyone's getting ready for these big playoff matches that we'll get to have. So, very exciting time, and recruitment is in high gear right now as well.
And then Ashton, fresh off of basically a three-week break because we had a couple of weeks off. Last week was a little under the weather. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm feeling better. I guess it's just that time of year. The flu's going around and getting everybody. It's got just about everybody in my house, but glad to be back. I mean, like you said, it's a busy week. A lot of recruiting news, especially volleyball playoffs going on and a football playoff starting. I'm really excited to get into all of it.
Well, not only is it flu season, it is also decommit season, as some Texas high school football athletes have decommitted in the last week, and probably two of the biggest names. One of them has already signed somewhere else, and the other one is trending one way, maybe, but he's also kind of looking back at potentially staying where he decommitted. Let's start with the first one first. Let's save the big one for the end here. Let's start. Colton Vasek decommits from OU and commits to University of Texas. Of course, he is a what's that word called, Jackson? Because his father played for UT. What's that word called?
He's a legacy.
Legacy, that's the word. A legacy commit right there. So he comes on the UT. He told, I don't know who he told somebody basically when he was on the sideline for that OU Texas game. It didn't feel right that he wasn't on the UT side. Basically, I don't know if the 49 and nothing had anything to do with it, but at the end of the day, Texas gets a huge time commit from a huge time player that's going to be inserted right away. You would imagine to that Texas defense. Ashton, let's start with you. You've been away the longest. What do you make of this decommit / commitment of Colton Vasek?
I think it's something that people that genuinely invest and pay attention to all the time with recruiting, it's something that really didn't surprise me. The time it did happen, because I mean, he literally posted on Twitter 4 p.m. and that's when I kind of knew that he would do some pretty big news. I mean, him flipping to UT really doesn't surprise me. I think it's a great grab for UT, especially with some other people that are decommitting, and especially it's almost that time. Signing day is really close upon us. And like you said, he's a legacy, and it's just a great grab for UT. But it really did not surprise me. But the time it did and how he announced it did surprise me a bit.
Jackson, how about you? What do you make of this flip by Colton?
Yeah, I think we talked about it when he committed to OU. We talked about how could Texas let this guy who's in town, a legacy, like not come to Texas. And I think that Texas has done a good job keeping up with them. I think their play on the field, their defense has looked a lot better than they have probably in the past. And I think when he looks at it, he's a guy that can really make an impact on the defensive line. I mean, you see what he's done at Westlake. He gets to play with another Westlake teammate who's already there on that defensive line. So I think it's just a perfect fit for him. I think that I think that as a kid that's grown up wanting to go to a school, and that's the school your dad played at, I think those are the type of things that play factors in some of these kids' decisions. And I think looking back on it, he's like, man, like I want to go to Texas. And so that's what we had this week. And it's definitely impacted Texas recruiting as well, as you're going to see potentially some more kids maybe flip to Texas.
And we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. And of course, I'll just add, I think the Texas defense has been kind of been a bright spot for that team this year, especially the last couple of games when the offense just doesn't play in the second half. Let's go ahead and talk about probably the biggest decommitment in the nation. Honestly, when you're the number one linebacker, in the state, Anthony Hill decommits from A&M, opens up his recruitment. Some sites have him leaning Texas, but there's the possibility that he could also go to just back to Texas A&M. Jackson, we'll go to you. I know you're the heartbroken one of the group here. When you heard that news, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I mean the struggles that we've been having or that A&M has been having, um, I think this played a factor in it. I think that you saw really the defense had been playing great up until that Ole Miss game. Actually the South Carolina no the Ole Miss game. They had been playing really well, and you couldn't really knock the defense. You saw what they did against Alabama. You saw what they've done pretty much all year. They've been the bright spot of that A&M team that's really struggling. And then it's almost like they flipped roles. The offense started playing well when she got to see Wegman in it. Even last week against Florida, you saw some bright spots, even though they couldn't put together in the second half. But the defense they have allowed a ton of rushing yards the past 2 weeks. The linebackers haven't necessarily looked too good. Also, I think with DJ Durkin's system, you sometimes see only one linebacker out there. So for a guy that's a freshman that might want to come in and start playing early, I think these are some things he looks at, and that's why he wanted to kind of take a step back, decommit, and look at the other school that he was deciding between, and that was Texas. And I think that it's still going to be down between A&M and Texas. I think Texas, the lean for Texas, definitely because he's visiting this weekend. Though I don't think he would flip on a decision that quickly. I think he's going to be a guy that's a signing day decision now. I think he'll go visit Texas. See how they do against a really good TCU football team this week. Hopefully, if Texas gets a win, this will help boost them in his recruitment. If they lose, but in a tight fashion, that could still leave the door open for A&M to come back. If A&M can finish the season strong or show changes will be happening in the near future, then you might see a guy like Anthony Hill go back to A&M. So as of now, from everything I've seen, I think it's still between Texas and A&M, and I don't think it's going to be over after just this weekend. I think he makes another trip back to College Station, and we'll see how it plays out. But that's the fun about recruiting. Sometimes guys decommit, and sometimes they recommit, like a guy like Bravion Rogers, who earlier this season was committed to A&M, decommitted, and then recommitted. So it's a part of football. Most of the time, guys who decommit don't recommit. But, hey, this one's wide open. Very interested to see how it plays out. And I think Texas and Texas A&M are in for another battle for another top recruit in state.
Ashton, let's get your take on this. What do you make of this decommitment?
To kind of piggyback off of what Jackson said, I mean, with everything that's going on in A&M, I understand there's a lot of rumors flying around. There's a lot of differing opinions that are on this program at the moment. I can understand the decommitment in wanting to take a step back, truly get his feet under him and understand. I also think that a couple teammates on the Texas side, I mean, he's got Austin Jordan and JT Sanders that are also playing for the Longhorns and getting some good time. And just like I said, just to rephrase what I said, taking a step back, assessing the situation. I think for A&M, the biggest thing for them is to finish off the season strong. For UT, obviously, if they can get a win against TCU, great. If not, give him a product of saying, hey, if you come in here, you can help us beat these TCUs. You can help us build this culture, and with you at the forefront of it.
Yeah, me and Jackson were talking earlier offline, and I basically told him, I was like, look, I don't know if Texas is going to win this TCU game. I mean, Texas's offense has not shown up in the last two games in the second half, and that's very troubling when you're going to be playing the number 4 team in the nation. But if Texas's defense can do something, I think that's going to be good for these defensive recruits they're trying to land, because they're showing, yes, we may have lost, but we hung in there especially if the offense struggles, right? If the offense struggles and it was a close game, you can say, look, we hung in there when our offense was struggling, right? I mean, you look at that Oklahoma State game. I mean, Texas was going like 3 and out almost every possession in the second half. That's going to wear a defense out. And so it's like, yes, Oklahoma State put up some points, but on the defense. But at the same time, when your offense isn't helping, that's a detriment to any defense. As Jackson will tell you very well. I mean, look, A&M's defense is a key example of why that happens this year. When your offense isn't producing, it's going to eventually wear out your defense. As a Cowboys fan, I'm worried about going on a little NFL rant here for a second. When our defense is so good, But if there's ever a time where offense struggles, and if it's for a sustained period, eventually it's going to catch up to a defense. And that's kind of what happened against the Eagles when Cooper Rush started making that run, but then they kind of stalled. Eventually, the defense gives up points. So, I need a strong defense showing from Texas this week. Let's now move to that game this week. There's going to be a lot of key recruits coming down there, probably not only on the Texas side, but on the TCU side as well, I would assume, to check out that game. Ashton, let's come to you now. Or I guess you can go to both, but let's start with Ashton here. Talk to me about some of these recruits that that are coming to this game and, what we can look out for.
I think we've talked about UT, we've talked about Anthony Hill. Obviously, the Bowen brothers are going to be there. Colin Simmons from Duncanville is going to be there. But I think the two people that are a lot of people are forgetting, Ashton Porter. He decommitted from Northwestern. There was a lot of controversy going on there with the trouble season. Ashton Porter, I'm not sure if he's going to be at the game, but for TCU to put on a great showing for him, especially with them being number 4 in the country, and also staying heavily within his recruitment, I think that if they're able to put an awesome product on the table along with the academic side of things, I think keeping and trying to get Ashton Porter to recruit there would be huge, as well as Zachary Chapman from Fort Bend Marshall. If you're able to put a good product over at TCU, you'll be able to keep guys like Zachary Chapman. Obviously on UT, the two Bowen brothers, I mean, that's always the guys from Denton Geyer. I think even with being committed to Notre Dame at this point in time, it's that class still has the potential to decommit and go other places. And this game just brings in a lot of recruits. And obviously it's a big rivalry game. It'll be one of the last few times that TCU and UT are able to play each other.
Jackson, turn it over to you now. Talk to us about some of these recruits coming to that game and kind of your take on some of that.
Yeah, there's actually a couple A&M commits that are, or at least one that I know of for sure that'll be heading there, and that's Bravion Rogers from LaGrange. A lot of people thought if Bravion was going to go and flip somewhere when he decommitted, it would be LSU, but Texas was right there. So seeing him making that visit to Texas, that could just be, hey, it's going to be an awesome game. It's a big weekend in Austin. Let me go check it out, see what happens. Though seeing Bravion recommit, I don't know if there's any smoke there, but hey, we never know. We didn't think Colton Vasek was going to flip, so we'll see how things go there. I think another interesting recruit that's going to be there is Jayven Toviano, DB from Arlington Martin, I believe is where he's at. He's being highly recruited right now. He was at LSU to watch Bama, watch that LSU Bama game last week. Now he's going to Texas TCU this week. He's one of the top DBs in the state that hasn't committed yet, so that's a big target for them. In regards to the Bowen brothers, I think this is an interesting one. I know that the youngest Bowen, Eli, he's being recruited really hard by all the in-state schools, so I think this will be a good chance for him to go check it out. And then for Peyton, I know he's been kind of – everyone was thinking if he flips, it's going to be OU or A&M. I think Texas is another school that's kind of put their name in there, threw their name out there for him. So I think that's a big weekend for Texas. You're going to have all these recruits in town. So I think you really got to show out this weekend if you want to get guys like that to potentially flip their commitments, decommit from their schools, or for these young guys, try to get them excited about Texas and have them leaning Texas early in their recruitments.
Yeah, and something interesting. I mean, we talk about all of the commits or potential crystal balls, if you will, that Texas is kind of getting right now. They did lose one commitment this past week. Arlington Seguin, safety Jamal Johnson decommitted from Texas. And, you wonder, is that something on his end? Is that something where maybe he saw all this potential coming in and he was like, do I want to mess with that? And is there a spot for me on it? So very interesting for that Texas did lose that. Jackson, you want to say something? Is that what I'm saying? Go for it, Jackson.
Yeah, I saw that, and that was pretty interesting too. But now seeing that recruiting list, we've seen teams do this in the past. Sometimes you have a kid committed, but you need to make room for someone else to commit. And sometimes that's why you see these kind of late decommitments when a kid's been committed for a while. So I don't know if this is one of those situations or he just decided not to go to Texas, but keep an eye on that and remember that decommitment if Texas is somehow able to get one of these DBs who are going to be in Austin this next weekend to watch them play TCU and possibly get a commitment.
Yeah, that is always one of those things you kind of have to pay attention to when you're a school that's getting all these commitments, is you can only have so many, and there are going to be some tough decisions about who do you keep and who do you say, hey, you know what, this actually is just not going to be the best for us. So always the good and bad to each side of getting tons of recruits coming your way. Jackson or Ashton, anything else before we go to our interview for this week?
I think two things that we did not touch on. Staying a bit local, Jackson and I have covered this guy quite a few times throughout the year. 2023, Klein Kane. I'm going to say athlete. He typically plays wide receiver, but these past couple of weeks with quarterback situation being hurt, Jalen Smith received his first two Power 5 offers from Michigan State and Minnesota after a huge upset and a great performance over Klein Collins. And another guy, 2023 Nuke Caney, 3-star, CJ Blocker, who's committed to Utah. His recruitment has picked up really quickly as of lately with, I want to say, nearly 7 interceptions on the year.
Yeah, you see, we've been talking about these guys getting late offers in their recruitment, and Jalen Smith is a prime example of this. Like Ashton said, I've gotten to see him play too. Extremely talented athlete. He reminds me a lot of how Matthew Golden looked on that Klein Kane team last year. He's kind of that star receiver, makes all these plays, and also can go in the backfield and do some things at quarterback, at running back, wherever you need him to play. He's always there to do it. His recruitment really has picked up with that Michigan State Minnesota offer. I think it's going to only increase more as he's one of these wide receivers that he's going to be one of those late bloomers. I think he's going to be a guy at the next level that people are going to be like, why weren't we recruiting him in high school at all? I think he's going to be that type of player when he moves on to the next level. And then in regards to CJ Blocker, his recruitment has definitely been picking up a lot. It's been increasing. He's committed to Utah right now, but Alabama and Texas A&M have been monitoring him closely. You've had other schools like TCU and Texas start looking at him as well, really heavily, as he's been one of the better DBs in the Houston area. This past year, he led the district in interceptions. He's really great in punt return and kick return game. I think this is a kid that you could see decommit from Utah and be one of these kind of sleeper hidden gems, if you would say, in the Houston area that will go to a school like A&M, Bama, Texas, TCU, one of those schools, and become the next great DB out of this state. So it's going to be very interesting to watch the rest of his recruitment, and very excited to see how much more to increase this with playoffs starting this week.
Well, with all of that being said, it is now time to get to our interview this week. Jackson, going back to back on North Shore players this week. We got Jayven Anderson coming in with that vaunted North Shore defense that I'm sure Jackson talks to Jayven all about. So with that being said, let's jump to our interview with Jayven right now.
All right, thanks, Josh. We've got a special guest today. We've got North Shore DB, class of 2023, state champ, Jayven Anderson. Jayven, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. My name is Jayven Anderson, class 2023 at North Shore High School.
Yeah, man. Let's start there. I mean, last year, junior year, you get to play in the state game. You get to play that entire season. Talk about what was it like winning that state championship last year with last year's team.
It was amazing, just coming out every day at practice, just putting in the hard work, and then just working all the way to state and playing in the state game. It was cool. It was cool to be out there with my brothers and give it all.
For sure, man. And obviously, since that state game, really after the state game, you really started to take off in your recruitment. Your recruitment really started to pick up. You start picking up some big time offers. Talk about what it's like as you're kind of a junior. You might not have too much going on, and then the state game hits. Win state, and offers basically just start coming in. Basically, I felt like you got 4 offers within that next month or so. So talk about what that was like going through that recruiting process and it hitting so fast after the state game.
It was a blessing, first of all. All that was a blessing. Just showing off my work on the field and dedicated to it. It leads to good work and pays off. So I just want to thank everybody that reached out to me recruiting-wise and just letting me be a part of their organization.
Yeah, and you got some big offers. I know Texas is on that list and a bunch of other schools as well. talk about maybe as you've gone through the spring, now it's your senior year. You've been able to go on some visits to some places. What have been kind of a couple of the highlights of this recruiting process, and also a couple of your favorite visits you've been on so far?
I went up to UTSA. It was pretty cool. It was a good visit, good environment, atmosphere. They had a good thing going on up there. Then I went up the street to U of H. Good organization, good program. Love how they move. Then I took a trip during the summer to UT. Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool up there.
Yeah, what exactly did you like about those three schools mainly on your visits? I mean, obviously Texas has been the blue blood school here in the state of Texas the past couple of years. You've got U of H joining the Big 12. UTSA had a really good season last year, and they've also got a former North Shore coach there, and Joe Price. So talk about maybe give one of your favorite memories from one of those visits. Whether it was a game, whether it was the pictures y'all got to take, or meeting a couple coaches?
At UT, it was good sitting down in the meeting room with all the players so I could see how it looked and get a picture of what it's time when I come to college, so I can already know what it's time for. So that gave me a big view right there just to lock in and see when you get to college, you're on your own, so you ain't really got nobody. It's just you and your skills. You got to go out there and ball.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that's the second part of going to college to play football. You realize, hey, I'm not going to be with mom and dad anymore. I'm going to be, of course, you got the coaches, you got your teammates and stuff. That's like your new family. But, I mean, you're on your own, and that's kind of your first get a little taste of what it's like to be an adult. So it's always a fun time kind of learning, and you'll learn real soon once you get to go to school too. That's kind of a learning process. But now let's kind of talk about this year's season. Y'all have been on a tear. The defense for North Shore this year has been really good. Y'all secondary, we haven't come up with a nickname for it yet, but we'll definitely have to name it after the season's over. Talk about what it's been like to play with. I mean, you've got yourself, you've got Jacoby Davis, you've got Devin Sanchez, and the list just goes on. What's it like playing with all these guys? And you also got to play with Denver Harris last year. So what's it been like playing with guys who, like yourself, are going to be getting to go play at the next level?
It's a good how can I say it? It's a good look for all of us because we are competitive. So we come out there ready to play and ready to practice. So we're all competitive with each other. We take everything we do with pride and just preparation and keep practicing on. It was a good view that I had to go play with Jayven Harris. He was a 5-star and I was nothing. So it kind of like I looked up to that and it made me go harder. So I know I could be in that position and all the potential that I have. So just playing with him was a good feeling.
Yeah, and this year, obviously, team's undefeated.
Oh, yeah. You know, me and my boy J5 go rock out,
For sure.
And 5.
If you haven't been to a North Shore game yet, Jayven and Jacoby are always talking. They're always in the mix on the field. They're making a ton of plays. So watch out for those two if you're an opposing offense. But let's talk about this year's team. Y'all are undefeated. Caleb Bailey, who takes the team to state last year at quarterback last year, goes down. What's it been like for this year's team to kind of the defense kind of steps up their game? Offense, you've got David Amador who's balling right now playing quarterback. What's it been like as you have one of your brothers, one of your guys go down, but y'all are still able to complete a lot of what y'all had goals for this year, which is undefeated, and I'm pretty sure y'all have clinched district champs maybe with a win tomorrow if y'all have a game tomorrow. But talk about what it's been like so far.
It's been amazing. We had a brother down, so next man up, and David stepped up and secured the spot and took care of business every game. And just did his job. Come out every day at practice, know what he have to do, executing, knowing the plays, coming out, and just playing David ball.
What's it been like? What's it been like being one of these senior leaders on defense and seeing y'all's defense really ball?
It's amazing, just leading the team, knowing how the plays coming, just from learning from last year. So I bring all that I learned from last year to this year and just keep building on from there and just put my team in a good position.
All right, man. Well, let's switch it up. Let's get a little bit of a fun question here. I've asked this to everyone I've interviewed. I think it's kind of a fun question to have. What's as NIL has become such a big deal in college football? You've got Bajan Robinson has his own. He's got his own honey mustard or his own mustard. You've got guys getting deals with certain local restaurants. You've got car dealerships, whatever it may be. What would be the dream NIL deal for Jayven Anderson? We had Tory Blaylock on not too long ago. He said Mike and Ike's would be his thing. We've had other people say some of the places that they're going to be going to. What would be kind of the dream NIL deal for you?
Well, this is a funny question, right? I eat out every day, so I think I say Chick-fil-A.
Hey, you
Chick-fil-A.
can't go wrong with that Chick-fil-A deal. I mean, hey, you get Chick-fil-A basically. I don't know how the deal would work, but hopefully you get Chick-fil-A for free. I mean, I'd say that's a pretty good deal to me. But that's always a solid choice. I would definitely pick Chick-fil-A or Whataburger. Those probably be my two choices there. But getting back to the season, round one of playoffs start next week. What's the mentality for you and y'all's team going into next week?
One game at a time. Just one game at a time. We ain't forcing nothing. Just come out every day, ball, execute, keep the same mindset that we have in the past, and just keep building on from that.
All right, Jayven, I've got two more questions for you. First one, obviously you're getting close to the end of your senior season. What's your timetable looking like on your possible commitment, or if you're going to cut down schools? What are you looking at here, and maybe a decision coming whenever you're ready?
Um, I'm getting locked in with the one school, so I'm planning on committing soon or sometime early in the 2023.
Okay. All right. Hey, y'all heard it here first. Look out for Jayven as he'll be making that big decision. Of course, he's got to focus on the rest of the senior year. But last question I got for you, Jayven. I've gotten to know you kind of over the past couple of months. What is it about football, Texas high school football, and also the recruiting game that makes this game so fun for anyone that doesn't understand it?
Um, it's a it's a it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. In Texas, it's a lot of work. So you come out here, you got a lot of competitive kids that want to play this position, that position. But everybody just got to come out here and work, and you'll get the outcome out of that.
Well, what do you have to say to people who might say California or Florida or Georgia football is definitely top dog over Texas?
Nah, they ain't top dog, man. They know what top dogs at, man. Just come down here. We're gonna show them some top dogs, man. It's understood.
All right, well, Jayven, that's all I got for you. I want to thank you for hopping on the show. Always a pleasure getting to talk to you, man. Looking forward to watching y'all, and hopefully y'all make another deep run. Excited to cover y'all during the playoffs, but good luck to you. I hope your decision. Let us know. Always excited to see where you go. But yeah, this has been a VYPE Recruit Spotlight interview with Jayven Anderson, and now we'll send it back to Josh and myself.
Yes, sir.
Well, with the interviews out of the way, or I guess interview, you should say, it is now time to get to our Under the Radar segment where we take a look at all of the under the radar athletes, whether that be they're under the radar because, they're not getting any offers or they're a highly recruited player, but we feel like, hey, the 5 or 6 offers they're getting just isn't enough. That being said, Ashton, who is your under the radar athlete for this week?
So my under the radar athlete of the week is a 2025 wide receiver, Taz Williams Jr. from Red Oak High School. Almost immediately, when looking at Taz, everything of a potential 4 or 5 star player jumps right at you. Physically, he is 6 foot, 170 pounds, which gives him more than enough size difference over most corners. Not only is he fast, which he uses to blow by defenders in the open field, but his ability to quickly speed up after making his move off the line is where his footwork truly excels. I mean, just watch the tape. In just about any one-on-one scenario, you want to get the ball in Taz's hands. Over the course of his sophomore year, he's accumulated nearly 600 receiving yards with 5 touchdowns, which I can easily see those numbers increasing over their playoff run, but also over the next 2 years of his high school career. At this point in time, he has 8 offers, 1 from Penn State, Texas A&M, and his big is coming from Tennessee this week. But I truly think with a huge camp summer and 2 years left of his recruitment and play, those offers could increase exponentially.
All right, Jackson, turning to you now. Who is your under the radar athlete for this week?
Yeah, my under the radar athlete is Braylon Thompson from Episcopal High School down in Houston. He's a class of 2024 DB, 6'1", 180, runs a 4.49 40, 4.0 GPA. He was a 2021 All SBC corner. I expect him to be an All SPC corner this year as well, after playing on a really good Episcopal team that lost in the SBC championship game. But Braylon is a really interesting prospect. He's a kid that I've really gotten to know pretty well. He's long, lengthy. He's got good speed, really good tackler, can lay the boom from that cornerback position. Also really good in coverage. I mean, just watch the tape. This is a true athlete. He's a kid who also plays on the basketball team, has tremendous bounce, can definitely get up. He's a kid that I think definitely should be getting some looks from more schools. I think that he should and will be camping this spring, and I expect that to help his recruitment a lot, as I think he is one of these top DBs in the Houston area that's really just being underrated in that class of 2024. So he's my under the radar this week, and I think that Braylon definitely deserves a shot to get some looks at him, because he's definitely one of these top DBs in the state, and especially the city, like I said, in 24.
And my under the radar this week is Lawrence Falk of Del Valley. The name may sound familiar to some of you, and that's because we've actually covered him on the show before. But he reached back out. He wanted to be, he wanted to be featured again, as his senior season is now over. Del Valley did not make the playoffs, and you know what? I think it's worth doing. He only has a couple of offers right now. I think this kid should have more. Last year, he was just kind of a defensive threat, right? If you go back and watch the clip, mainly talked about his defensive aspects. And he showed up again this year, 50 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 pass breakups. But this year he also played offense, had 33 receptions for 877 yards and 13 touchdowns. He's everything you like in an athlete, right? He's obviously not afraid to do what's asked of him. He's mainly a defensive guy, and coach asked him to play offense, and he stepped up and played some offense. It was very effective. He's got the speed. He's got the IQ to play multiple positions, as you clearly see in the highlights. I like this kid. I liked him when we covered him. I think it was around right before the season started. I think it was episode 25, if I'm not mistaken. And I like him now. I think if you get this kid, you're going to get a hard worker. You're going to get a kid that's going to do everything you ask of him and more. Plus, go back and watch what I said in episode 25. It's still true to this day. So, hey, coaches, class of 23 right here. He's ready to sign somewhere. I know his one big offer. He's got a good one from University of Mary Hardin Baylor. That's a good get if UMHB picks him up. But someone go out there and get him. You're not going to be disappointed, folks. Lawrence Falk, my under the radar for this week. As always, if you want to be featured on this show, send us a DM, send us an email, let us know in the comments. Like I said, we covered Lawrence twice because we got someone reaching out about it. So let us know, and we will cover you. That's what we love to do. That's why we do this segment, is to feature those under the radar athletes. That being said, let us get out of here with some shout outs. Jackson, who you shouting out, man?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of do a little something similar to what I did with Locker Talk. I'm going to shout out everyone that's participating in the Texas high school football playoffs this week, and however many rounds y'all make it. To all the fans, cheerleaders, football players, bands, have fun with it. It's a fun time. Seniors, enjoy every moment of it. You never know when that one game's going to be your last game, so just play as long as you can, and don't have any regrets if you go out with a bang. And then the other shout I want to give is to College Station. There's some crazy things happening there right now, some kind of terrible things that are going on right now in the city of College Station, and prayers to everyone who is having to deal with some of that stuff, and hopefully the College Station Police Department can figure out who's doing this stuff and can get them out of College Station. So those are my 2 shout outs, but yeah, it's going to be a great week in Texas high school football.
And Ashton, sorry, who are you shouting out this week?
So I'm also going to piggyback off of what Jackson said. Prayers to everyone in College Station. I've got quite a few friends that are there now, and especially I'm looking at going to A&M, maybe Texas as well. But it's just a really scary sight, and I hope everything resolves itself and that everyone stays safe. And I also want to shout out everybody in the Texas high school football realm. Like you said, Jackson, it's your senior year. It's my senior year. Obviously, I'm not on the field as a player, on the field as a reporter and covering Bridgeland my freshman and sophomore year, and now Tom Ball my junior and senior year. I really don't know when my last game is going to be. And just to everyone that's came along and supported me on my journey, I really appreciate you and hoping to see what the future holds for me.
Well, we love that you've been here and looking forward to hopefully having you up until you graduate at least. Fingers crossed on that. Who am I going to shout out? I could shout out the Marines again. When this show airs, the Marine Corps birthday will have been yesterday, so a quick little shout out to that. Of course, as a Marine veteran, shout out to all my brothers and sisters out there that served in the Marines. So happy birthday to us on that. And then, hey, we did it on Locker Talk. I'm going to do it again as well. Shout out to all those by-district teams, man. It's playoff time. You got those teams that are going to be fighting to stay alive. You got the favorites. You got the underdogs. It's that time. Win or go home, baby. That's what we love about Texas high school football. And that trip to not only Jerry World, but of course, I think, if it's the same as last year up in Waco, TAPS. So, shout out to TAPS. They don't get as much love as UIL, but get some dominant teams in there as well. So with that being said, that is our show for this week. We'll be back next Friday to talk about some more Texas high school football recruiting news. We'll probably get to update you on what happened in Texas with Texas taking on TCU. Did that impact anything? Were there any signings? We'll have that covered for you next Friday at 3 o'clock. Till then, I'm Wack. That's Jackson and Ashton, and we'll see you at the games.